Okay, hello everybody, and I've got a new video showing off my latest homemade design that I've recently completed. Now before I show it to you, I'll give you a little backstory on what I was trying to accomplish here. If any of you saw my video of my original homemade blaster, it being this one, at the time I really loved it because it was my first homemade, it performed really well, it got great range, and it actually worked. But besides that, obviously looking at it now, it's not exactly the cleanest looking thing ever, nor is its catch ridiculously reliable. At the time it was alright, it caught pretty much most of the time, but now at this point it's gotten a bit worn out and it still works sometimes, but when you prime it, it kind of feels like it's about to deprime itself at any moment, and if you shake it, it probably will. So it's not something I can really rely on anymore in terms of any sort of warranty anymore, so I was trying to create a new homemade that had the similar pullback design that I really like of it because I find that motion really fun. But I wanted to incorporate the catch mechanism of my newest, or well, the homemade I made after this one, which was this one. This one used the L-shaped piece of polycarbonate in the same sort of idea as a snap. Instead, it just is using polycarbonate as opposed to a clothespin. I went on detail more of this in my last video or 2 videos ago, explaining this in depth, so you can check that out if you want to. And I've got the video of the original homemade if you want to see that. So, trying to combine those 2 ideas, I came up with this. So this is my latest design of homemade. It's basically a Snapbow variant in that it has pretty much the exact same design as Rourke's original design, but it uses this catch mechanism that I built on the last blaster in place of the clothespin again. So going over it a little bit more, it looks really awesome in my opinion. Much better than a clothespin does in that it's really simple, looks really clean. I'll give you a nice little close up of it right here, so you can see it right there. So I much prefer this to the look of any sort of regular snap because the trigger looks cleaner and more sort of streamlined in the design. And so what this is held on by this time around, because last time it was held on the nail that the actual trigger was hinging on was going through the handle of the previous blaster, and that had a Nerf blaster handle on it, so I had a little clearance to be able to put it through a hole there. But this one is obviously just a wood handle, so I cut out aluminum side plates on here, and I glued those onto the side of the handle, and that is what allows the nail to go through and still be able to hinge externally. Some people pointed out my last design to a sort of tangent that this was similar to the HEC catch design in that it used an externally hinging piece of polycarbonate to catch. But I just like to point out that it is actually a little bit different because the HEC design uses a polycarbonate ramp, if you will, that's attached to the trigger to guide basically the trigger into the slot that catches, if that makes any sense. Whereas this one is still much closer to how a snap works in that the plunger head has an epoxy putty ramp, and that's what guides a nail that's inside here down into the catch slot. So it's similar, but different enough to be something I'd say that to be a different catch than what an HEC would be. Just throwing that out there. So moving on to other features of the blaster. Starting out in front here, I've got a 3/4 to 1/2 reducer bushing in here as my attachment. And it's still a universal coupler like I've used on my previous 2 homemades because I like being able to attach CPVC just directly on there if I so choose. And besides that, it's the plunger head, like I mentioned before, is basically a Superlative plunger head. The only difference being that I'm using an O-ring once again as opposed to a washer. A few people also called me out on my explanation of why I use an O-ring last homemade video, in that where I was stating that washers provide a little bit too much friction for my taste, and I realized that once you get a washer right, it'll actually be less friction than an O-ring. But the thing is, when you buy the washers, they come oversized, and so you have to get them into sort of a cup shape to be able to fit the plunger tube to then be able to provide. And I don't really like doing that personally. I don't like tinkering with it. For me, I just love finding an O-ring, slapping it in there, and already having a good seal. I'm not even worried about tweaking it or anything. So that's what I go with. you might disagree with me, but this is my blaster, not yours, so whatever. So besides that, it seals, this particular one seals good, not great. My previous homemade did really well. This one just doesn't for whatever reason, but it's still not bad. So I can show you here. It uses a 14-inch barrel. I haven't really tested this exactly to see what barrel length is right, but I would imagine something like a 14-inch barrel is about what it uses. So I'll show you the seal on this. So it's not bad, not great, but it's good enough. It still fires plenty far, so I'm not really about to complain. And the draw itself, it has a full K26 inside there, and the draw is just below 7 inches, so it's very nearly full compression. It's obviously, it's plenty enough draw. It's more than you'll ever actually need. So yeah, that's what helps give like a nice good chunk of range there. Let's see what else on here. The stock back here, as you can see, is removable if you want to take it off. It's just attached to a PVC coupler up here and an elbow down here, so you can pop it off and turn it into more of a pistolized version, if you will. And that's kind of cool because then the stock back up here almost looks like a sight for the gun. And obviously, I know it doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't really work, but it looks cool. It's fun to play with. Yeah. After about that, though, that's really about it. I intended to keep it pretty simple on this blaster since that's basically what the point of a Snapbow is, to make something that's simple that will fire reliably. So yeah. The last one I called a pump M-Snap, M standing for moderately in the Snap acronym. So I figured I'll call this the Snap, or the M-Snapbow, or MSB for short, since I like to be cute and be my little blasters or whatever. So overall, I'm really, really happy with this. It turned out really, really simple looking, which is good in my opinion. I really like that look. It's really clean, really sort of a streamlined design, so I'm overall quite happy with that. So now, generally I'd show a range test after this, but it basically reaches the same range as my other two homemade, so I'm pretty sure you don't need to see how far that is again. So I'll just show you a gas firing test to show sort of the operation of it. Alright, so for this test, I'll just be using a 5-shot RCB and shooting that chair. Here it goes. See, it works quite well, and I'm very happy with it. So that'll do it for the video.